Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Fantasy Football University FFU. Coming at you yet again in the off season with a very, very technical show here today. We are very excited to be with you. I'm Mr. Bilderkruis. I'm here with Mr. Tom Lang. Mr. Lang, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. And you know what time of the day it is when Billy's voice is a little bit somber in the morning.
It's not somber. I'm like the radio DJ at 2 o'clock in the morning, like
You're like,
staying with you for the entire night, but wanting to
let
be
me
happy with you.
s- let me soothe your mind this week.
It's like the guy from the planetarium looking east into the setting sun and
It's planetarium.
yeah.
Planetarium.
We're very excited to be with you guys. We basically, I think we anticipate this show more than any other. It's the show in the past that's gotten us the most attention, good and bad, I would say, on most of our social media stuff. So this is the draft strategy, all the draft math, all that stuff. We're going to
Yep.
get into a lot of nitty-gritty stuff in this show. Um, and it was pretty controversial last year. We're going to be building on some of that this year, but to me, I don't understand how any of it could be controversial. We're backing it up with math. So
Yeah.
I don't
You
know
know
why
the
people get angry about it.
I think Billy, because everybody has their strategy and specific strategies that might work for them. And this is not against anybody. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are just in one singular league that have been in the same league for their entire life, and they're drafting with the same guys that make the same mistakes every single year, and you're winning your league because you're able to overcome and just basically draft the way you want and get the players the way you want. Because you take advantage of that league. Well, let me explain this way. Guys, open your mind and get to a higher level and work and play with people that actually been doing this a very consecutive years, and that are, I don't want to say professionals, but on a level that know exactly how to draft, know exactly how to, work the fab, know exactly how to, if you're not in fab, but know exactly how to, find players on the waiver wire week in, week out.
Yeah,
When you get when you get to that position, that's when this math strategy really gets implemented the right way. And you'll be a little bit more open-minded to, you can't just draft a quarterback in the second round, or you just can't draft every single receiver known to man and then just hope and pray that your running backs are going to, fall in line. I don't want to give too much away because, unless you guys want to backtrack to last year's conversation, but this year's conversation is going to be a little bit more legitimate when it comes down to the players we're going to talk about in the rounds, because last year there were some injuries involved. But, I'm going to let Billy take the lead here.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's talk about some the latest news first. Let's tee
Sure.
everybody up.
Don't don't get ahead of myself.
Yeah. So a lot of news coming out of training camp. A lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of injuries. Let's start with some of the injuries. Right at the top, I just wanted to talk about my horrific New York Jets. So the Kenyon Sadiq, let's call it saga, continues. So if anybody doesn't know, he had off-season hernia surgery, but he was supposedly ready to go. There was nothing wrong. Well, clearly that's not the case. So whatever was going on with him, whatever injury, he's had a setback and he's still not at training camp. Aaron Glenn said he thinks he's going to be ready for the season opener, but for anybody who was going to, let's say, quote unquote, take the shot on Sadiq, it wasn't going to be us. But for anybody who's going to take the shot on Sadiq, he's breaking a lot of rules now. He's not going to be getting in any practice during training camp. And you guys got to remember there's a second year highly drafted tight end already there,
Mason
Mason
Taylor.
Taylor. So I don't think either one of them is going to have a good year. But just an FYI that for all the Sadiq truthers, it's not looking good right now.
No, and Mason Taylor is talented. He is the son of Jason Taylor, ex-pro Hall of Famer right there. So he's got the talent. He's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Don't draft him early. Don't draft him at all. But
Let's talk about the Falcons quarterback situation.
well, actually, could we just parlay this into a another tight end real
Oh,
quick?
sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Mr. Waller himself has signed a 1 year deal with the Panthers, so they're not happy with Mr. Sanders back there as the tight end one. So Darren Waller signs a 1 year deal with the Panthers. We saw what he did last year with the Dolphins. Obviously, when Tyreek Hill went down, he did nothing with the Giants when he signed that big contract over there. He just retired and became rap god. And now he is back in football shape with the Panthers on an ascending offense. Everybody, I'm going to be real here. Everybody, there's a lot of people that are poo-pooing on the Panthers. The Panthers have been getting better, and defensively, offensively. Um, Now I won't say that they're at the same caliber of, as basically the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensively because they have a crazy amount of talent on that offense. Um, and obviously Baker's probably 3 to 4 steps ahead of Mr. Young over there. But Bryce Young has been showing promise towards the end of the year. We were talking about his praise the year prior as he was ascending into that the year with getting into it with Ted McMillan. And Darren Waller has an opportunity to shine, and I'm not going to say, hey, go out there and draft him, with praise, but like, he could be a sleeper. He could be somebody that I'm interested in looking at based on
Really?
training. Yeah, based on training camp. I want to see how he connects with the team. But he could be somebody that I could say is a nice sleeper that can finish in the top 10 and have, top three top 3 weeks.
The only reason I would even remotely entertain that is because of the power at the tight end position of just scoring a touchdown. Um, if he's going to be a red zone threat, which that's basically his main calling card at this point. Now, I mean, I don't know how predictable it's going to be. Also, I think it might just be smoke and mirrors at this point. We'll have to see like if he actually gets used on the field. I'm amazed that he just keeps wanting to try and play. I'm surprised that the rap career hasn't just usurped him at this point.
Well,
But
you think about it like, when you take 2 years off, you sign a multi-million dollar contract, you take 2 years off, you do nothing sports wise, and then you decide to come back, you regain like 7 years of your life.
we supposedly we'll
Yeah,
see. We'll see how he does. Um, yeah, back to the Falcons quarterback situation. For anybody who doesn't know, the Falcons quarterbacks, neither of them have been practicing up to this point, which is fun. So it looks like both Tommy and me are going to be losing bets this year for this stupid bet that we made about who's going to start more games. So let's talk. Penix
B
hasn't.
they're gonna run the Wildcat and Bijan's gonna be the quarterback.
Michael Penix still has not been cleared for full team activities, so Penix has not been practicing at all. There has never been any thought of him practicing up till now. Tua was supposed to be practicing, but hasn't been practicing till now. He's been working through an injury the early portion of training camp. So in the interim, the Falcons have been rocking and rolling with Cooper Rush as their quarterback, which is fun. So this is
Journeyman, and he was pretty good with
it was okay.
yeah, he was pretty good with the Ravens at times, and then he was pretty good with the Cowboys.
Cowboys. Yeah, I think the issue there is like we keep talking about this with the Falcons. Like I let they got a good coach now, and I thought they had a good coach last year too, but
They
that's
did.
that's me. They got it, but we like Kevin Stefanski, and they got a lot of talent on that team. It's just they're really hampered by their quarterback position, and it's just another reason that some of the vibes out of Atlanta are not good. Again, I just feel a lot better about Gibbs than I do about Bijan at the moment. So,
Yeah,
um, we're all in
I,
we're all
I agree. I hear
we're all,
you.
we're all in agreement there. All right, wanted to mention the Bears. So Luther Burden will be missing quite a lot of time with an injury. It was a groin injury, which by the way, there's a lot of players that suffer the groin injury going on in training camp. So he's gonna be out for a while, and is expected to miss about a month. So they're hoping that he could be ready for the season opener against Carolina. But what does that mean? He's breaking our rules, Tommy. So
It's a
he
gr
will.
and it's a groin injury.
Right, and it's not something to be messed around with. It's we treat the groins the same way as hamstrings. So that means he's not going to be getting in any practice, and it's not like he's Justin Jefferson where he's that level of a stud. So whatever injury dip befalls him, we're probably not going to be taking that. We'll talk about that in this episode also. So he probably won't be on a lot of our teams, but does it mean that you feel significantly better about Roma Dunze?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, he has the chemistry already, and he was a primary guy going into last year. Why wouldn't he not just continue that? It's a 1A 1B when it comes down to Loveland and Oduze right now, from my perspective. And that's what my perspective was going into the season. I'm not a big Luther Burden guy. Obviously, I do believe that he has a lot of talent, and he's going to have a lot more opportunity now that DJ Moore is not there. But uh, Oduze is a very good receiver. He proved that last year. He fell off a little bit,
Yeah, whatever
um,
injury with
whatever it
whatever that was going
was,
on. I
and
mean,
there was a lot of target share around the ball. But I, I just think it's that 1A 1B with the tight end Loveland and Oduze, and yeah, is it gonna supersede? It's gonna be kind of like the Cowboy effect with CeeDee Lamb being out and then Pickens overtaking and Ferguson overtaking. It's gonna be that kind of situation, right? So I just think that you know, you, you can't anticipate, especially with Luther Burden coming back. You got to give it like another 3 weeks before he's going to start being productive. But I just would not highly draft that guy.
this for me, and we'll talk about we usually do our final tiers and our final rankings like one of the later shows that we get into in the off season. This definitely bumps him up to a clear wide receiver two for me for Rome. We before this we had Rome and Luther as like a bubble between two and three.
Mhm.
So we're I think it definitely changes that
And I'll be
for us.
honest, so the crazy thing is I have my first draft this Sunday, and I don't know why we're doing it on the first Sunday of preseason. It just I'm sorry my league that I'm in my local league over here, but guys, we can't do this. Like this is the prime time when injuries start happening.
I know you
Um
want more information, not less.
yeah. So, and I remember one year it was the whatchamacallit. It was there was a massive injury. I think it was the Christian McCaffrey year, like maybe about like 6 years ago or something like that, where he got injured in the preseason. Like the news came out, somebody drafted him, and then bam, it was over. Um, whatever that year was. But I don't know. I'm excited to draft, but I'm not highly excited to make massive investments. And these are the reasons why. You got a Luther Burden that comes out with a groin injury. Now he's going to miss some time. What else is going to come up? Like some of these players that are going to be highly drafted could pop up, like Christian McCaffrey, right? He has a nagging soreness, or he's out for soreness. I mean, that could just be the aforementioned veteran day off, or it could be the aforementioned I'm going to Germany day off.
Oh, the Germany side with
Yeah.
him was funny.
It's got to stay away from that schnitzel.
Yeah. Let's talk about just a few other notable injuries from going around training
I
camp.
honestly really think he went to Germany because it was Oktoberfest.
Well, clearly not. He had whatever was going on. Like it
I
was
know, but he
injury
went there. I
related.
mean, he went to Oktoberfest as well too. It was kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, well, God bless him. It didn't work out well for fantasy managers.
It did not.
All right, Colts wide receiver situation. So,
Mm.
let's talk about that. So, Josh Downs is currently not practicing because of a groin injury, and Alec Pierce has yet to practice as he recovers from an ankle surgery he underwent this offseason. He was placed on the team's PUP list ahead of training camp. General Manager Chris Ballard clarified that Pierce did not receive a second platelet-rich plasma injection in his ankle, as had previously been reported. No, I'm not a medical expert. I don't know what that means, but I know it sounds better that he didn't get something than he did, I guess, and
Yes.
stated that he anticipates Pierce will be ready for week one. Now, I have been pretty high on Pierce this
Yep.
offseason. I think the opportunity combined with their commitment to him financially uh, is and especially with Daniel Jones recovery, like I think they're going to need him, especially with Pittman's departure or whatever. Um, my issue is he's got to get in some practice. He's one of those players where, like we say all the time, he's not Justin Jefferson, he's not CeeDee Lamb or something. He has got to get into practice, get some reps in with the team. It is going to be a new look kind of offense here. So,
Yep.
um, I let's hope he's ready for at least a week or two before week one. It seems like he might be. let's hold and we'll watch on it. Have you been growing on Pierce minus this whole injury thing? I mean,
I've been growing on both guys because honestly, I mean, it for me, it's a lower valued Bears situation, to be honest, because you
right.
only got two, star or two big name wide receivers that are not to that high caliber as like say a Chase and Higgins, right? It's the poor man version, but they're talented, right? And then you got a star tight end out there as well too, young tight end that's going to take some targets away as well too. Um, for the Colts side, it's obviously just make sure that Daniel Jones is healthy. For the Bears side, it's just make sure that Caleb Williams, continues to paint his nails. Um, but yeah, with with Josh Downs, with both of those guys, I'm more honestly, I'm more excited about Josh Downs than I am about Pierce. And I understand he's going through the groin thing. I don't think it's the extent of an injury like we just spoke about. What's his name, Luther Burden,
But why? But why though? Why specifically?
because he hasn't been fully declared to that extent. It
But
hasn't been like a thing where he's like, oh, he's going to miss a lot of time.
yeah,
He's
but
going to miss all of training camp. He's been practicing. He's been shining as well too.
let me
And
ask you this, but take
Josh Downs,
injuries out of it. What like why do you feel that way about Downs instead of Pierce?
because when given the opportunity, get he's shown that he could provide, right? He could produce. So, without Michael Pittman there, the big body target right now is Mr. Warren, right? So outside of that, you're talking about they're going to utilize him outside, right? Warren's going to be an outside wide receiver. He's going to be inside at times because he's a talented pass catcher, but he's also a good, obviously run blocker. But they already have the tight ends outside of that are pretty much their primary run blockers and stuff like that, and pass blockers inside interior pass blockers. Um, so Downs being a opportunity to be a slot receiver, which they're more consistent running a two wide receivers set. They're they were getting into the realm of basically basically running a slot receiver towards the end of the year because they needed to open the field at times. He's going to produce. He's going to have opportunity, and it's going to be a better volume play because Pittman is not there. There's one player taken away. I see him basically seeing at least 15% more than he received last year and being productive with it.
I I, I I'm not going to say that I don't see Downs being successful. I would not say it at the in the same breath that we're saying like a not that good of a year from quote unquote from Pierce.
I'm not saying it's going to be a bad year. I'm just saying based on ADP and based where you could get these guys, you can not draft, I mean, or get close to not drafting Downs, or he's a
I
late round guy that
I
can
agree with that.
produce close to what Pierce is going to produce.
That that might be fair. Yeah, Downs is going as a currently an afterthought right now.
Correct.
So, I mean, but then again, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there's a reason that Pierce is, being more desired. Although I at the moment think Pierce is going less than what perhaps he could be. Maybe that's also training camp related. We'll see. Well, I'll feel a lot better about the situation as long as he gets in some practices. So we'll see how that shapes out. The only other bit of news I wanted to mention, I just wanted to mention the Eagles wide receiver situation. So Mekhi Lemon has not been practicing either.
Mhm.
Um, and so I just thought we'd mention and I was looking at Devontae Smith's ADP has been kind of all over the place, and maybe we should just spend, I really do think in AJ Brown's absence, Devontae Smith is going to have a really great year. I really do, despite whatever, in a lower passing volume offense or whatever. But we should also
Or
mention,
lesser accuracy passing volume, but passing
fine. I
offense.
mean, I know you like to talk a lot of
Well, I mean,
stuff about Hurts, but
when your Eagles social media posts a video of Jalen Hurts throwing a beautiful pass to the defense,
I mean,
uh,
okay.
that's pretty interesting.
I mean, there's a lot of that going on, with training camp videos and stuff.
Hey,
I'm just merely making the point that there's got to be somebody else catchy stuff, and I think it could be. I think this might be like a relevant another relevant year from Dallas Goedert. I really do. Um, I
100%.
now I don't think this puts him in any. We'll talk about this when we talk about strategy. It doesn't put him in a premium position to be drafted in any premium,
No.
round, but I would be keeping my eye on him as as it gets farther and farther down the draft. I would,
Yeah.
considering that he's going to be absolutely needed in that offense. Um, any other notable injuries you wanted to mention?
No, I mean, just not really super injuries, but Jadarian Price comes back. He's
Good.
come back from that injury, and he goes right with the ones, so we know exactly what that means.
We do.
And then J.K. Dobbins, same thing, goes right back with the ones right after that. So, J.K. Dobbins is a guy that is being underdrafted.
I
He's being
agree.
overlooked like he was last year, and he is the RB1 on that roster for
I'm
now.
gonna Right. I'm gonna tell you something right now about the Denver backfield. I think Dobbins is gonna have a very good opening to the season,
Mhm.
but then for the rest of the season, I think it's just gonna be an absolute mess. And we know Sean
Hey,
Payton does this with
hey,
backs. Like,
for an eighth, ninth round player that you're going to be able to draft
right,
as an RB1
right, for a few weeks
for
anyway.
for a month of football,
Yeah.
that's a player that I would focus on, especially with their, who they got in front of them the first couple weeks. I'm highly interested in basically plugging them in. If you're gonna go zero RB
Right.
strategy,
Well,
that's
which
your
we'll
guy
talk
right
about.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say Dobbins is a darling of zero RB right now,
Yep.
which we'll talk about. Yeah, ready to talk about some math here?
Let's talk about the math that's
All right.
controversial for no reason.
Some draft strategy and math. So we're going to take a little time and we're going to back things up with numbers to illustrate this. So, all right, let's start with the first thing. Let's get it out the way. Let's be all controversial. So, ladies and gentlemen, running backs are more valuable early, but wide receivers hold their value better later. Okay, let it sink in. Okay, I know it's annoying to people that they hear us say that,
Say it
but
again.
running backs are more valuable early, and wide receivers hold their value better later.
One more
Okay.
time.
Okay. That we're not gonna be that way. All right. So let's back it up with some numbers and then we'll talk narratives as to why this is the case. Okay. So let's just talk half PPR. All right. The running back 12 from last year was Josh Jacobs with 219 points. The wide receiver 12 was Zay Flowers with 172 points. A very significant difference. But the running back 36 was Algier with 113. The wide receiver 36 was Jacoby Myers at 131 points. So here's the deal. There's a graph we can make between total points between weeks 1 and 17 for players of what they're scoring. And if you look at the running back graph of it, and if you look at the wide receiver graph of it, depending upon if it's standard, if it's half PPR or full PPR, you will see those graphs overlap each other. The point of why in half PPR or full PPR, it's that those lines overlap each other faster and faster than they do in standard. Obviously, for anybody who knows standard, running backs are significantly more valuable than wide receivers. But at some point, the wide receivers still overtake them. It just takes farther and farther. But you get half PPR, it happens sooner and sooner, and PPR, it happens very, very soon. And just by what I just illustrated, like even in half PPR, by the time you get to the wide receiver 30s or even the high 20s, wide receivers are already significantly more valuable. So
Hmm.
for example, in PPR, full PPR now, Jacobs was still the running back 12 at 237 points. Zay was the wide receiver 12 at 213. The running back 36 was Bucky at 127. Parker Washington was the wide receiver 36 at 165. That's a 40-point difference just at wide receiver 36. So we understand that, and there's also a predictability point there. We already know, and let's get into the narrative street of why this is. It's simple to supply and demand. Teams start multiple wide receivers at a time, but only one running back on any given play, generally speaking. Well, there's more relevant wide receivers across the board, but think about this. There's how many bell cow running backs can you possibly name? Maybe there's nine at the very most.
Yeah.
It's also the new NFL style. There's a lot more pass happy stuff. Um, do you think, Tommy, that just and obviously this is the direction that the NFL has been going, but it's funny the way we used to think about fantasy 10 to 15, 20 years ago. When the NFL keeps going in this more direction, it's simple supply and demand. It makes those running backs who you want to get even more valuable because of the
Yeah.
scarcity of them. Has there ever been any thought in your mind where you ever thought it would not be this way? Or is it just this is just the trend that it goes?
Well, it's just a trend that it goes. I mean, you talk about the 80s, it was all about the running back and the running game, even before that, and then now the 90s, getting into the 90s, that's when you get in the early 2000s, you got these big name quarterbacks that are out there and they're it's just the there's just the trend of the game. And now you got, quarterbacks that are super athletes, right? That can basically scramble on the run. And it was like it was not allowed to, run and pass at the same time. It was an anomaly until like the early 2000s, 90s. Doug Flutie was pretty much the first guy that decided to, do stuff like that, and he was looked at a certain way. And now you got every single quarterback pretty much just making plays on their feet. Um, and that takes away from the running back, you know, position in itself because certain systems do not allow a primary running back, right? They want multiple running backs out there. Hence, obviously, there's some anomalies with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, through the years. And now it's Jahmyr Gibbs and as a Pacheco. But when you are in that system, that primary running back is somebody that you want to hold on to. The problem with that though is it's the injury effect because some teams do really do a primary focus on one singular guy.
Right.
And if you don't grab your handcuff, you're in trouble.
Right. And we'll talk about this when it comes to strategies too. But one of the reasons, and we won't spoil it about like why you wait on the onesie positions, it's because of these injuries, it's why you are taking multiple shots and you're taking multiple rounds to try to get lots of shots at the running back position, let's say. Because you take multiple shots at it, then you have a better chance of having somebody who not just breaks out, but also is better through injury, can carry you through X amount of weeks or whatever it is. If you're only taking one shot, then you put yourself up for a lot of risk in that way. And to your point, running backs might be a position where more injuries happen. We'll get to that when we get to some of the other strategies. And just to illustrate to everybody a bit more of the numbers with this, because again, apparently this is such a controversial thing. Let's talk about return on investment. Okay. We talked about this a little bit at the end of this year. At the running back position, last year in the draft, of the top 14 drafted, 12 finished in the top 14. Think about that. Of the
Mhm.
top 14, 12 finished within the top 14. I got it. There might have been, some variation within there, but from a finishing perspective, that's pretty good
Yeah,
as opposed to the wide receivers. In the top 14 drafted, only five were of the top 14 who finished, only five were drafted there. Think about that. Like that's volatility. Now that doesn't mean you stay away from wide receivers. We're just we just spent, however many minutes just before this just explaining how wide receivers are 10 times better than the running backs later in every league that isn't standard. Like we're illustrating this to say that every single time that you have a flex position, 9 times out of 10, you probably should have a wide receiver there. Better consistency, better upside. They're just going to be
better pizza at
scoring
Papa
more
John's.
points. Yeah, they're just going to be scoring more points than running backs at that same time. And like I said about the graph, that happens in half PPR at about the let's say the late 20s in terms of the running back wide receiver position. In PPR, it happens like basically in the like wide receiver 20 or something.
Hmm.
And just to illustrate the return on investment even more, at the running back position of the top seven drafted last year, four finished within the top seven. That's over a 50% return on investment rate at the top bell cow level. So the idea is you want to get a hold of these guys and at the very least be taking multiple shots so that you can guard yourself against injury and try to get all that other upside. So, Tommy, I know that there has been in the history of us, I mean, we've tried various different strategies and stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's tried and true. It's consistent for a reason, and we both subscribe to this. I mean, when our back's against the wall, we think like this, right? Get your running backs early, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, and again, this is not like, hey, this is my strategy going into the draft. This is basically,
For a lot of
so,
people.
yeah, for a lot of people, you gotta think about like, all right, well, you gotta see how the draft is going. You gotta see how some of these guys are drafting.
Right, value.
That doesn't mean that like if Amon-Ra St. Brown drops to the second round, pass on him to go grab a running back. That means grab Amon-Ra St. Brown and then focus on running back after that because that you're just about to win your league, by bolstering those opportunities there. But 100%. I mean, there's a plethora of players that are RB2s that can really just bolster your opportunity. But again, yeah, 100%. I mean, running back strategy is where it's at. You get those guys that are basically going to ride you in. Doesn't matter what the situation is when it comes down to um, point scoring systems and stuff like that for your league. Even more important if it's standard. If you're focusing
Well,
on
yeah.
a pass catcher, well, you're not getting points for that. You're getting points for touches at that point. When it comes down to how many times that running back can touch the ball. Um, you know, so that's the most important thing. Yeah, running backs are highly valuable.
Yeah, and just to give 2 seconds of lip service, like th- we just illustrated running backs are more are way better earlier, but the wide receivers do hold their value better later. And to illustrate that, I just want to mention, just think narratively, like you could take a lot of these shots at wide receiver and, different parts of the season, different guys will work out. There's a lot more options to take a shot on. That's another thing. Like we just illustrated the narrative of it. More wide receivers are playing on the field at any given time than running backs. So you have
Yeah.
more guys to take shots on. Um, and because of that, their opportunity to finish in a relevant position where they actually do well for you. And also, we're talking about fantasy finishers that finish throughout the season. Okay, maybe there's guys that have a better stretch, and you end up picking them up, and they end up doing well for your team. I mean, you had Ibuka doing crazy for the first half
Hmm.
of last year, but then you have guys like Parker Washington who did well for the second half of last year. I'm just saying, like, just managing your team, like that volatility you can find at the wide receiver position, and volatility in the good sense you could find at the wide receiver position way better than running back. So uh, it's better that you have the stalwart running backs on your team so you can play with those positions at wide receiver after the fact.
Yep.
So let's talk about the other major aspect here. So we just talked about running backs and wide receivers. Let's talk about the onesie positions. This is quarterback and tight end. And you know how we feel. We wait on onesie positions. Now we'll get to the exceptions, but we wait on onesie positions. Let me illustrate that by giving you guys some important ratios. So between 2025, between weeks 1 and 17, we had 47 quarterbacks have a top 12 finish. 47, which is crazy because there's only 32 teams. So where did
Yep.
those other 15 quarterbacks come from? This is backups, that have a top 12 finish. Um, and so why how is this even a thing? Well, because it's predictability. Matchups are easy to see. There's no ambiguity on who is starting for any team on any given week. You know who the starting quarterback is going to be. You know who's going to be playing, and you know who's going to be playing the Saints defense
Yeah.
or something.
Riley Leonard had a top 12 finish.
Yeah, God bless him. But here's an important ratio for you guys to know. You only have to start one quarterback. And so if 47 of them had a top 12 week, that ratio, it's a 3.9 ratio, which means that we're going to keep that, we'll put a pin in that, keep that number in the back of your mind. When we start talking about the ratios at running back and wide receiver, it becomes very, very clear why they are more valuable to you on your team than the quarterback and tight ends position because you can find them. That's the point. The supply
Hmm.
and demand means that you can find them. Tight ends is even crazier than quarterbacks. 64 tight ends had a top 12 finish in 2025. Now, I'll just say that, a lot of those guys in that number you would never have played. It's some backup tight end who caught a touchdown and had a good game or whatever. So great. Lop off X amount from that number if you want. But the idea with tight ends is it's similar though with quarterbacks. You have trending volume. You could be checking out matchups. Most teams are be, and another thing is other than Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, most teams that you're playing against are playing the lotto anyway. It's, oh my God, can my tight end get me a touchdown or a couple catches? Only a few teams will have the top three or four tight ends anyway. It's not a big advantage in a normal 12 team league. Um, Honestly, Tommy, even now, like if I have a team that I'm playing against and basically anybody other than, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, maybe even throw in Tyler Warren. It's not like, and that's only three teams of the league, and who knows what they gave up to go and get those guys from the draft position. It's not like I'm scared to play that team, whatever it is, right?
No, I'm never scared to play a team.
No. So if you take the number 64, you divide it by 12 because you only need to start one tight end. I mean, the ratio is crazy. It's 5.3. Whatever. If you lop off 20 or so of those guys who you never would have played anyway, it's still in like the quarterback range. I mean, these are big ratios. So now let's talk about running backs and wide receivers. Running backs, 79 of them had a top 24 finish. That's relevant because you have to start at least two running backs. That's why. So 79 of them had a top 24 finish. That ratio, 79 over 24, 3.29, almost a full point ratio difference. All the 32 starters were going to be rostered. There's a lot of backups. There's not many to find after the fact. It's very similar to what we said before. You have a supply and demand problem at the running back position. So it's just another illustration here of why take your time. You could find guys at the quarterback and tight end position. You could stream it if you need to. And let's talk about wide receivers. Okay. And this is the most relevant portion here. It's why we say you got to load up on them and they hold their value better later than running backs do. So you take your shots in the mid rounds. 124 wide receivers had a top uh 24 finish in 2025. 124. Okay. Considering that you're probably going to be playing them at the flex position, and more leagues are moving to three wide receivers to help bridge the gap between the running back and wide receiver value. If you take 124, you divide it by 36, you get a very similar ratio to the running backs. You get 3.4. So you got 3.2 at 3.4, almost a full point behind quarterbacks and tight ends. You could clearly see that where you need to be spending your draft capital. You could find your tight end or quarterback later. Here's the
Hmm.
deal. Um, the community is better at identifying wide receivers than we were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, with upside or wide receivers with consistent flex appeal, or that one week where it's like, oh my gosh, we could start, Josh Downs this week because of this, or we could start, uh, uh, um, Chris Olave this week. It's a good week for him. We can identify that so much better. The point is, you're ending up loading up on these guys who have lots of shots to have a really good relevant week and give you a positional advantage that you don't need to be spending your time wasting a pick on a onesie position that you could just stream after the fact.
Yep.
Um, so Tommy, I know we talked about it a few times. Let's just talk about the quote unquote exceptions to this. I said it all off season. I'm still holding with it. The only exceptions that I would even remotely say, like, is that guys who give you such a positional advantage at those positions that it evens out the math. And that would be Trey McBride and Brock Bowers at the tight end position. But for me, I'm not going higher than the fourth. That's it.
You
Like,
can't do it. You can't do it, especially, I mean, even if it's the only time that you can potentially think about that is when you're in a bonus situation, when you get the additional, half point per reception for the tight end, which we are in one of those leagues. So I'd probably say, but it's not as, I mean, personally, you're not taking him in the first round. You're not taking him early second round, maybe at the tail end of the second round. Kind of thing, or the third round is an acceptable area. But I will say, like, that onesie position is just it's gonna suffocate your depth around the players that there's multiple positions that you can actually start.
and when we talk about a positional advantage, to illustrate it to you guys, this is what we mean. Supposing you draft Brock Bowers, okay? And I'm just going to throw numbers out there. Let's say he finishes the tight end one, and let's say he finishes the tight end one with 250 points. Okay, great. You draft him as the tight end one, he finishes as a tight end one. That's great. Let's just say that the tight end five, whoever it might be, finishes with 230 points. Okay. And whoever drafted the tight end five got him in like the 11th, 12th, 13th round or undrafted or something. Uh, Consider that. Great. You drafted the tight end one. He got the tight end one. He did not give you a positional advantage over those, one to five other tight.
No,
You have to be essentially predicting a tier difference, a significant tier difference in what the performance is going to be. Now, we do believe that a guy like Brock Bowers is going to be that way, but not enough for us to go higher than the fourth. That's sort of the
no,
point.
yeah,
We feel the same way about Josh Allen. The fourth is the highest we would even remotely consider him. And a lot of leagues, he's just never going to get there.
yeah.
So, um, I just wanted to mention two other things on Narrative Street here. So the other point about why this is relevant is if there are injuries, you are protected by investing at wide receiver and running back because you're taking more shots at them. You're
And let me
taking, yeah,
sorry, and then let me just backtrack real quick.
sure,
You were
sure,
talking
sure.
about the quarterback situation, and this is not strategy. People think this is strategy, but do not draft a quarterback to attempt to trade him. That is
Oh, no,
that is dumb strategy because you're not going to get the value that you were going to get in that draft that you will be getting in return. Somebody's going to take advantage of you, and you think that you're going to be able to move him after 3, 4 weeks and then get exactly what you want. No, it's called burning yourself. Maybe it happens once or twice. It's a 1%er right there. But don't do that. You don't draft players to trade them. And a lot of people out there, that when they
not at the
draft,
onesie position.
no, and there's a lot of people out there that draft double quarterbacks early. That's just only going to screw you down the
Right.
road.
Yeah,
Unless
it'll
you're a
be,
really good waiver wire guy, it's not good. It
would,
doesn't
no.
work out that way. And honestly, and just to think about it from this perspective, from a sales perspective, if you're going to take two quarterbacks, two primary quarterbacks that are going to be top producers, top five producers week in, week out, why would anybody just throw, unless they're a moron, why would anybody just say, "Hey, I'm going to give you exactly what you want because I need that quarterback position." Like, it just doesn't work that way. So that a smart person is going to look at that and be like, "Oh, well, they're just there. There's a position that's rotting on their bench. They're not able to use it, and they're maybe teetering week in,
Right. I
week
have
out,
no
and not
leverage.
have no. There's zero leverage. Just
Right.
just let it go. Don't do that."
Right. And you know that there's guys who are like who do the draft be like, hey, if anybody needs a quarterback, come see me or whatever. Like like come on. It
Good
just
luck,
doesn't
brother.
yeah,
I'll
like
stream.
yeah, well, I'll be fine. Like,
Enjoy your bye week quarterback.
yeah, that's a ridiculous thing. Um yeah, and just to illustrate that, it's like investing at quarterback and tight end early, it's risky due to the injury. Imagine if you lose him, you have no other shots to compensate. That's why we keep saying when you're taking a position where you're taking multiple shots on them, you're taking multiple shots for upside, yes, but you're taking also multiple shots to guard you against injuries
Yeah,
and volatility, etc. Another thing that we also identified this offseason the and I think this affects me the most. It's when you take a quarterback or tight end early, you lose out on the opportunity cost of finding a quarterback or tight end later at value because you aren't doubling up. You have that stud guy. Imagine, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but imagine you drafted Brock Bowers in the third, and then imagine for some reason Tyler Warren was available in the ninth round, you'd feel like crap because it's like, okay, well now I whatever that value is, I don't have him. I could
hmm
have grabbed him in the ninth or something. Not saying that that's going to happen in your league, but I'm saying imagine if it did. So whatever that value is that you lose out on, what's more likely to happen is you got like a late round quarterback who you like Trevor Lawrence or Baker Mayfield for us. And if we drafted Josh Allen in the second, well, then we lose out on that. So I
yeah.
mean, consider what your opportunity costs are. So two major points here about that we just illustrated about this is how we do our draft strategy. Running backs are more valuable early. Wide receivers hold their value better later. So load up on the wide receivers in the mid rounds and wait on the onesie positions. Okay. The main point of bringing these up is that on average, this is the best strategy. The running backs early, wide receivers mid because it works. It guards you against the most set of risk. But we're about to illustrate, okay, just a couple of alternative strategies, lest I'm sure the internet get very, very angry at us. So, um, the zero RB strategy, which I think Tommy has done more than me in like just in leagues or like other mocks and just other things in the past. It can work because you can bypass the supply shortage of high-end running backs by accepting a quote unquote loss at those positions on a weekly basis in exchange for dominance at every other positions. You'll be taking loads of top tier wide receivers, a quarterback early, a tight end early, and all you need to do is fill in the bodies of those two running back slots. Like we said, maybe you could get a late J.K. Dobbins to just fill in for you. The question is if the positional advantage you have at every other position is big enough to overcome your deficit at those two positions on your team. And I'll just mention that the more starting slots on your team beyond the two running back slots, like if you're in a league that has more flexes or more wide receiver slots, the better this strategy can work. Where this strategy can fall down is if your top tier players at the other positions aren't so top tier, or if they weren't the best wide receivers, or if they weren't the best quarterbacks, or if they get injured, especially at quarterback or tight end. Um, and one thing to know, and it wasn't the case last year because people were talking about this online, if a lot of the best running backs in the league are not getting injured, then it's probably not going to be a great year for you because a lot of the other teams that you're playing against in that year probably had a good year. Um, Now, I would say even in a year when that does happen, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the best team. There's still some predictability involved in here.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time you went zero RB in a competitive league? Was it long ago or?
A while ago, I can't even remember. I will say there's more sometimes like a situation, especially if it's multiple flex, you know, uh roles over there. I might do like a balanced role like draft where I'm going back and forth, best available running back or receiver. In a situation like that. But 90% of the time, I'm leaning towards the better running back, or if there's a better running back over a receiver, I'm going to take that running back over the receiver. So, in a sense, I do like a hybrid hero running back role draft. That's kind of like my focus because I want to have a balanced roster when it comes down to running backs and receivers, but I want to take that opportunity on a higher performer that's going to get more touches, aka the running back over a receiver at times.
Yeah, like you just alluded to it there. The other strategy here that the other alternative strategy, if you will, it's called the hero running back strategy. So instead of zero RB, hero running back means you're going to be getting one top tier running back instead of loading up like we talk about. It can work because you're halfway bypassing the supply shortage on high end running backs. It's just accepting a loss at that one slot on your team for weekly dominance at every other position. The way this works is most likely you grab a top tier back first, really in the first round, and you make sure to grab his handcuff at some point in the end of the draft,
Hmm.
along with all the other like in zero RB, all the early wide receivers and early quarterback tight ends, so that you have a positional advantage. It tries to bridge the gap and lessen the risk of going a full zero running back strategy. That way you only have the one slot that's disadvantaged. This strategy falls down if that top tier back isn't so top tier. That's sort of the point.
Yeah.
Even if they don't get injured, if they're just not up to snuff, you're putting yourself at a major disadvantage. However, and I've done this strategy way more than the other one. If you hit on that top tier running back, it's probably going to be a really great year for you.
Yeah.
But then you're staking your claim into that. And I bring all this up to just say that the point of bringing up these alternative drafting strategies that everybody on the internet is going to be screaming at us about, but is that these strategies can work. We're not saying that they can't. The point is that on average, this is way riskier. So obviously you can either go into a draft and try to swing for the fences, great. But you can swing for the fences and not, accept, the percent chance, try to lessen the percent chance that it could not work out. When you're taking multiple shots at running back early, you are mitigating yourself against this problem that
Yeah.
that we're illustrating. So I would say, Tommy, I'm like you. I read the draft as it is. I see how things are going. If I'm in the 10th pick and nine people picked a running back before, okay, I'm probably going wide receiver at that point because from a tier-based thing, which we'll get into. But I mean, for the most part, I'm trying to keep true with what we said. It is what
Yeah.
it is. It's better. It's less risky.
Because the thing is, even if it was that situation, it's going to balance out over time throughout the draft. So you got to take what you get. You got to take the best opportunity at that point in time, and then, focus on your running backs after that. It just is what it is. This,
Yeah. So that was the meat and potatoes of what we wanted to convey to everybody. We got a few other quick little math and strategic notifications to give to everybody here, but we wanted to spend the vast majority of our discussion talking about that stuff because that's basically how you think about your draft.
yeah.
Couple other major points here. So we just want to say beware of point projections. This one I know annoys the both of us so much throughout the season. So this applies in the draft and during the season as well. So many times leading into a draft or even like a game, you'll look at the projections on a thing and you'll be like, well, I should pick this guy because he's ranked 20 spots higher. And the projection difference between 20 spots is like 11 points. What is that? Like a touchdown and like a catch. Um, when you guys are making a decision to draft somebody over somebody in the same position group or play somebody or pick up somebody off a free agency over somebody, you only consider qualitatively why you would start or draft somebody. Um, because the projections is just a guess. I mean, these guys are like, oh yeah, he'll get this or whatever. Like,
I mean, it's a guess, but it's also a standard to in a sense. I mean, I will say, I'm not going to poo-poo on this conversation right here, but I will say, because I've had plenty of times where I was 30 points behind the person I was going against and I won because,
right,
the situation is I'm looking at it and saying, hey, the matchup is much greater than what the projection shows.
right. And it's also noted that and every single expert on ESPN, CBS, Fox,
I hold
any of the major
I
sites,
hold ESPN's
yeah.
experts very lightly.
So any of the experts on any of these sites who do these projections, they would tell you that this is especially like they would admit themselves that they get this wrong with volatile players, players who can on any given week either get 2 points or 30 points. Because how do you put that into a projection? The point is you have to put an average projection there, and then it's not an accurate representation of what that player means to your team. They have to put something. So it depends on the player, it depends on the thing. The point is that you don't just look at projection and be like, well, this guy's projected to have 30 more points, so therefore I should draft him instead of this. No, come up with a narrative street as to why you're making that decision over somebody. Another major tip that we were alluding to, and we were just talking about training camp injuries and stuff. Don't buy the injury and I guess quote unquote contract dip. Any players who might be holding out. I mean, this one, I know this one's right up your alley, Tommy.
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So every players fall in the draft because of injury or contract concerns. There's a lot, very often players want to capitalize on it and they always be like, oh, it's like half a round later. Let me grab that guy. No, 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 no. We're talking tears drop of difference. In nearly every case, this ends up costing them. Players who did not practice tend to not be ready. They drag their injury, they get re-injured, whatever. It's
Joe
true for
Mixon.
holdouts as well. Yeah, Joe Mixon. Tommy's learned his lesson with that.
Hey, that was the ninth round, so
It was. We had opportunity cost there though. Uh,
we still won.
so what is the fantasy football university rule? Our rule is that they need to get in multiple practices in a row before we warrant playing them, picking them up, drafting
Yep.
them, or whatever. Now there is a point in drafts where if they fall to a ridiculous point where it's like, all right, it's worth that shot. Like if Malik Neighbors were to fall to like the sixth, okay, like maybe even earlier than that, but it's like, okay, we're taking that shot. But we're not
That's not
taking
happening.
Malik. We're not taking Malik in the first. I mean, or
No,
we're not taking Malik in the second right now. It's
no.
just not. But there's people who are going to be like, oh, he's the middle of the second. Let me take that. No, you can't. You have to guard yourself.
And we're talking about 12-man leagues. No, we're not talking about like 10-man leagues where everybody's team's good.
Right. Well, and by the way, that's good that you bring that up. For the most part, everything that we were talking about, the math of it, that only applies to 12 team leagues. Like a lot of the ratios and stuff we mentioned, it doesn't work in like the ratios get extended if it's a bigger league or a smaller league or whatever.
Oh
Like
yeah.
just to illustrate your point, narrative speaking, when you have less people in your league, it makes having a positional advantage at the onesie position more important. So maybe you do want to try to get a Josh Allen or a Brock Bowers if you can, because there's less teams to compete against. So you want a positional advantage. But it gets even worse though when you start getting into a bigger and bigger league. Like you need to
Trust
load
me.
up on the running backs and wide receivers at
Trust
that
me, I
point.
know. I was in a 16-man league last year, and
Crazy.
it was insane. But my primary focus was running back for the first 4 rounds, and
Absolutely. And you probably did
that
well. Like,
that
yeah.
did that. I was good.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta like that's crazy. Because at that point, yeah, I'll just find whatever. I'll start Malik Willis if I have to. Jeez.
Oh yeah.
Get it at that point. And so the last thing we wanted to say was just to illustrate our point on tier-based drafting. And if anybody doesn't realize this, and Tommy, I don't think that I fully grasped this until I like was talking to some of my coworkers about like really the way that let's call it the general public drafts. Do you know how many people just still look at a rankings list and draft based on just a full rankings? Like it's most of the public,
Yeah,
from what I
like
understand at this point.
95% of people.
Yeah. So if you want to be better at your league, if you want to do better, you got to move away from that. You go to tier-based drafting. You rank guys. If you want to go off of rankings online, fine. If you want to go off of our rankings, fine. If you want to rank them yourselves, fine. But you rank them in separate position values. And what is important is you rank them within tiers.
Yep.
You're not going to be able to like guys who you think about in the same category as each other. Like we've said the same thing, like Puka, Jamar Chase, maybe Amon-Ra, we see them as the same, and then we see a drop off between Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb or whatever, and then there's a drop off between like yada yada, and you go down the line between these guys that you grade, and you do it in separate position groups. And so the idea is maximizing your draft by minimizing your opportunity cost. And so I illustrate this example all the time. I'll say it real quickly. Let's say we're somewhere in the fourth round and there's six wide receivers that you're looking to that are part of a current tier that's left. Let's also say that we have our eye on one or two running backs that we see as valuable at that point in the draft, and we'd love to grab one of them as well. After those two running backs, there's a drop off. So there's six wide receivers left at a tier and two running backs left in a tier. We know we want to get at least one of those positions, so let's compare two likely outcomes. Scenario A, we draft the best among the six available wide receivers in that draft, best quote unquote. And then when the draft snakes backs around to us, maybe both of those running backs are gone, forcing us to grab a lower tier running back. Scenario B, we draft one of those one running backs first, even though maybe we wanted the top among that other wide receiver. But when the draft snakes backs around to us, at least one of those wide receivers from that tier is available who snatched him up. Not guaranteed to happen, but it's a much better chance. And in this case, we end up with two higher tier players due to playing the draft tier system better and being a better drafter than our opponents. So you need to consider how many guys are left within a tier and a position group you are looking at to make these decisions. Each decision is a mini supply and demand issue. And this is Tommy's favorite thing forever and ever. You cannot just sit there blindly and do this. You also need to consider who your opponents might be drafting ahead of you before the draft snakes around to you and
Yep.
you make your decisions. How many times, Tommy, has it happened where you are like, well, these, I'm in the ninth pick, and then, I've got these three guys behind me, and all three of them, they're already loaded up at wide receiver. I know they're going to be drafting run it. Like, how many times do you make this decision all the time? You know?
All the time.
Yeah, like I mean, and therefore, like, okay, I'll get the wide running back now because I know the wide receiver is going to come back, or the other way around. So you pay attention to that stuff, and you can make better decisions earlier on. Um, what I think for me personally, I moved to tier-based drafting a very long time ago, and I don't even think I fully realized that it happened. And this was before people online started making those lists that maybe even remotely had tiers. I just got to a point where I thought about guys like I think about them in the same way, and then I just sort of started drafting like that, and it ended up being way more successful. D- Uh, and again, Tommy, like from everything that we just described earlier, is there a point in the draft at which we stop caring and it's like, all right, maybe you should start taking your shots, think about guys that you like? Yeah, that usually happens around the 10th, 11th round
Yeah.
at that point. But up until that point, you absolutely should be being mathematical, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 100% to an extent. I mean, like I said, if someone's going to drop to you that should not be there, then, the math kind of balls out the window for 5 seconds. But in all reality, the math is where it's at. I mean, it's math for a reason. Uh, it's because it works and it's real time. It's through the years, right? So it's proven to be a suitable factor in, in any concept, right? Math basically breaks down in anything that you basically put yourself in front of. So, if you don't understand it, well, just watch the video and draft the way we're asking.
Yeah, I mean, we gave the people a lot of information here, and this is a lot of stuff, and I mean, it should work for you. And, in terms of everything that we're talking about, like when we create our tiers and we talk about players, we tell everybody, like, this is right about where we would see them being drafted. This is how we feel about them. So be on the look for that in future shows that, as we continue to finalize our tiers and stuff. But Tommy and I practice what we preach. We believe in this stuff that we just conveyed to everybody. So, I
Hmm.
mean, we go by this stuff. Any other things you wanted to mention before we close this out?
No, just don't take this conversation. Everybody listen. If you listen to this full video, don't take it to heart, but take it to smart. All right. Start
We'll
thinking.
take it to the heart, take it to the brain.
Yeah, think about it, and even with these TikTok shorts that are created that are put out there, just watch the full video because you'll actually get the full concept if you just, sometimes the shorts are leading into you to watch the video. Um, you know, it just helps if you understand exactly what we just said here.
Yeah, and like the whole TikTok short thing, like, and then people don't even have the attention span to listen to the full 30 seconds of what that short is. They'll just hear me say running backs are more valuable early, wide receiver hold their value better later. Huh, these clowns or whatever. Come on, come on. What level of childish attention span do you have? And also, we have the numbers to back these things up. We're not
Billy,
saying these
I
things
mean,
lightly, guys.
it's 2026. Keyboard warriors have been relevant since 2013.
I suppose. But if
They
people
have they have evolved.
well, to your point though, we would encourage people to disagree with us, but we actually get a kick out of it in the comments if people are like, "Hey, I disagree, and here's why," and they list out information.
Yeah,
Like, God bless that guy. He's like, "All right, he's coming at it with some
just taking it,
information."
yeah, taking the time to do it. That's fine. You know, it's like, prove me wrong, right? I'm gonna
Right.
sit here.
Some people have interesting I forget what it was. It was sometimes people disagreed with us on a particular game about starting somebody, and like they had a different perspective, and like God bless them. Like, hey, you had a
Yeah,
different perspective, and you backed it up, and you were cool about it. God bless, man. Like that's fine. Just like, oh, we're clowns because we think something different. Come on, man. Be nice.
like I said early on, some of these people that are the clowns, commenters, how are only in probably one league or two leagues that they've been winning every single year is because they're drafting with clowns.
That's true. They're playing against
Correct.
their grandmother and whoever else. Anyway. Lots of fun. That was our
Yep.
that was our big mathematical episode here. We're going to be coming at it. Our next strategic episode is going to be on qualitative metrics. So this was quantitative. We're going to get into qualitative next we're at some point. So we'll get into that.
Yep.
So thank you guys. Closing thoughts, Mr. Lang?
Yeah, if you could please like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. And Billy, actually, do you want to announce our live draft that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks?
Not
We,
quite yet. Not quite yet because the draft has to get filled first. So let's wait for that because
I'm
there's a
sure
chance
it's going to get filled.
it might not, but let's hold on that. Let's hold
Okay.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to remind everybody that we'll be dropping the date for you guys to watch, to tune in. But we will be doing another live draft that we will be winning this year again. So please tune into our qualitative metrics draft.
Thank you very much, everybody.